Lionheart wasn't supposed to work. It was too chaotic, too cheap, and built from the wreckage of two completely failed projects. But somehow, it did. And behind the scenes? Last-minute cast swaps, accidental face kicks, a director the studio didn't want to hire, a budget that doubled overnight. Here are 20 insane facts about Lionheart you didn't know, and they're stranger than fiction. Number 1. This movie was born from Hollywood's trash pile. Lionheart started as two separate failed scripts that nobody wanted to touch. Van Damme had been shopping around an underground fighting script called The Wrong Bet for months without any takers. Meanwhile, director Sheldon Lettich was sitting on a French Foreign Legion script that was originally written for Sylvester Stallone's Rambo 3 project, but Stallone's team had completely rejected it. Rather than let both scripts die in development hell, they decided to merge these two failures into one cohesive story. The result was a Jean-Claude Van Damme vehicle about a French legionnaire who goes AWOL and ends up fighting in illegal street matches to raise money for his dead brother's family. Two Hollywood rejects became one unexpected hit through pure desperation and creative problem-solving. Number 2. The studio tried to block their own director. Warner Brothers was actively working to avoid hiring director Sheldon Lettich, and their reasoning was purely financial. His Writers Guild membership would automatically entitle him to substantial benefits, residuals, and ongoing royalties that the studio desperately wanted to avoid paying. The bean counters had calculated exactly how much Lettich would cost them over the long term, and they didn't like the numbers. Van Damme had to personally go to bat for Lettich and insist on keeping him as director, especially after the original screenwriter Stephanie Warren's first draft was deemed too sentimental to be commercially viable by studio executives. The studio eventually caved to Van Damme's demands, but they made it clear they weren't happy about the additional costs. This early conflict set the tone for a production where Van Damme would constantly fight for creative control. Number 3. The budget exploded overnight and nobody saw it coming. The original budget projection was a modest $3 million, which seemed reasonable for a low-budget action vehicle. By the time cameras finally stopped rolling, they had burned through $6 million, exactly double what they had promised nervous investors. The production costs spiraled completely out of control as underground fight scenes required multiple takes, real location shoots ate up transportation and permit fees, and Van Damme's perfectionist demands meant reshooting scenes until they met his standards. Nobody had properly budgeted for the star's meticulous approach to choreographing fight sequences or the complications that came with filming in actual Los Angeles locations, rather than controlled studio sets. The additional $3 million had to come from somewhere, and it definitely wasn't coming out of Van Damme's salary. Studio executives were probably having nightmares about explaining the overruns to their bosses and investors. Number 4. They had to beg another studio for the movie's name. The title Lionheart was already taken, and this created a major legal headache for the production. Warner Brothers had released their own movie with that exact same title back in 1987, and they owned all the trademark rights to use Lionheart for film purposes. This meant the producers had to swallow their pride, go hat in hand to Warner Brothers' legal department, and formally request permission to use the title for their independent low-budget action flick. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. They were asking a major studio for permission to use a name for the exact type of B-movie that the major studios usually ignored. Warner Brothers ultimately said yes to the request, probably because their executives figured nobody would ever confuse their 1987 period piece with Van Damme's contemporary street fighting movie. The legal clearance process added weeks to pre-production and cost thousands in attorney fees. Number 5. This movie has more names than a spy with fake passports. Because Lionheart was independently funded and sold to different distributors around the world, it ended up being released under 5 completely different titles depending on which country you lived in. American audiences knew it as Lionheart. Some international markets got full contact. Other regions saw it advertised as AWOL, absent without leave. In certain territories, it was called Wrong Bet, harking back to Van Damme's original script title. And in some markets, it was simply titled Leon. Each individual distributor picked whatever name they thought would sell the most tickets in their specific region, leading to a confusing international release where the same movie had completely different identities. Marketing materials had to be redesigned for each territory, and fans trying to discuss the film across different countries often had no idea they were talking about the same Van Damme movie. This multi-title approach became a trademark of independently distributed action films in the early 1990s. Number 6. Family drama cost the movie its main villain. The final villain, Attila, was originally supposed to be played by Van Damme's close friend Mohamed Michel Kisi. who had been part of Van Damme's inner circle since their martial arts training days. But family politics complicated everything when Muhammad's brother Abdel entered the picture. For years, Abdel had been dismissing their Hollywood dreams as nothing more than a pipe dream, and had shown zero interest in their acting aspirations. However, the moment success started materializing and real movie contracts appeared, Abdel suddenly changed his tune completely. He demanded a significant role in the production, putting Muhammad in an impossible position between family loyalty and professional opportunity. Rather than create a family rift, Muhammad reluctantly agreed to give up the main villain part to his brother and accepted a much smaller Legionnaire role instead. This last-minute casting change forced the production to scramble and rewrite scenes, but family harmony was apparently worth more than Muhammad's original starring villain role. Number 7. A real fight broke out during the fake fight scene. During what should have been a routine swimming pool fight sequence, actor Paco Christian Prieto accidentally delivered a full-force kick directly to Jean-Claude Van Damme's face. This wasn't part of the choreography, this wasn't method acting, and this definitely wasn't in the script. It was a genuine accident that caught everyone off guard. The impact was significant enough that Van Damme was visibly stunned and needed immediate medical attention on set. Production came to a complete halt for 45 minutes while the star recovered from the unexpected blow, and the medical team checked for any serious injury. The cameras stopped rolling, but the behind-the-scenes drama kept escalating as insurance representatives had to be called and incident reports had to be filed. Prieto was reportedly mortified about accidentally striking the film's star, while Van Damme was professional enough to continue filming once he recovered. The irony of getting genuinely injured during a fake fight wasn't lost on anyone present. Number 8. Half the dialogue was made up on the spot. Harrison Page, who played the fast-talking character Joshua, improvised nearly 50% of his character's dialogue throughout the entire production. Director Sheldon Lettich had specifically described Joshua as a motor-mouth character, and Page took that direction to heart by treating it as license for creative freedom. Rather than sticking strictly to the scripted lines, Page would launch into spontaneous monologues and conversational tangents that felt natural for his character. The director loved this approach so much that he would often just let the cameras keep rolling while Page riffed on whatever came to mind. This meant that roughly half of the conversations and interactions you see Joshua having in the final film were never written in the original script. They were pure improvisation captured in real time. Page's background and natural charisma made these improvised moments feel authentic rather than forced, and many of the film's most memorable Joshua quotes were completely spontaneous creations that happened during filming. Number 9. Van Damme wanted to show off his butt for his female fans. During the shower scene that takes place in Cynthia's apartment, Van Damme made a very specific and deliberate request to director Sheldon Lettich. He asked if he could casually drop his towel during the scene to show off his posterior to the camera. His stated reasoning was straightforward. He believed his female fans would genuinely appreciate seeing this particular part of his anatomy, and he wanted to give them what they wanted. The director agreed to the request, and this casual towel-dropping moment was filmed and included in the final cut. What's interesting is that this seemingly spontaneous butt-showing scene almost became a signature trademark that Van Damme would repeat in his subsequent films. The positive audience reaction to this moment apparently convinced Van Damme and his team that strategic nudity was good for his brand and box office appeal. It became an early example of Van Damme's willingness to cater specifically to his female fan base, which was a significant portion of his audience demographic. Number 10. The movie's child star was discovered completely by accident. Ashley Johnson, who played Van Damme's beloved niece in the film, wasn't even supposed to be anywhere near a movie audition. She was just a regular kid on a family holiday trip to Los Angeles, enjoying a vacation with no entertainment industry aspirations whatsoever. She had tagged along with some family friends who were attending an actual audition for the film, probably expecting to spend a boring afternoon waiting around while the adults handled their business. However, when the casting director spotted Ashley in the waiting area, something clicked immediately. Her natural presence and authentic demeanor made her perfect for the role of Van Damme's niece. She had exactly the right look and energy they'd been searching for. This was Ashley's complete acting debut. She had zero previous experience in front of cameras or on film sets. In the span of one unexpected afternoon, she went from being a tourist kid killing time in a casting office to being cast as a key supporting character in a major Van Damme action film. Number 11. Van Damme turned into a creative contributor behind the scenes. Many dismissed Van Damme as just a martial arts star, but on Lionheart he showed real creative input. He proposed several scene details that made it into the film. For example, he suggested ending the parking garage fight with a single punch, believing it would better highlight the character's control. He also pitched having a Scottish opponent wear a kilt, adding cultural variety to the underground fighting roster. Another touch was giving Attila a pet cat as a subtle nod to classic villains like Blofeld from James Bond. These weren't gimmicks. They added depth and distinctiveness to what could have been formulaic fight scenes. Director Sheldon Lettich later confirmed that Van Damme's contributions often elevated the movie's tone, showing his surprising grasp of cinematic storytelling. For a film built on raw energy, these touches gave it personality, and they proved Van Damme wasn't just a performer, but a hands-on creative force. Number 12. Nearly 1,000 fighters auditioned for roles in the fight scenes. When the production team put out a call for martial artists and fighters to appear in Lionheart, they were overwhelmed by the response. The auditions took place at Frank Dux's gym, a notable location since Dux was the real-life inspiration behind Bloodsport. Close to 1,000 hopefuls arrived, ranging from trained professionals to street brawlers and even amateur enthusiasts hoping for a shot in Hollywood. The audition process was less about showcasing technical perfection and more about camera presence, sellable reactions, and personality. The fight choreographers were looking for people who could convincingly take hits, show pain, and make even short appearances look cinematic. It turned into an impromptu fight festival, with a wide variety of techniques and styles on display. Some of these fighters would later return as extras or stunt performers in other Van Damme films, making Lionheart a launching pad for aspiring action talent. Number 13. Hospital scenes were shot in a real hospital tied to the cast. The hospital scenes in Lionheart weren't filmed on a studio set. They were shot at Queen of Angels Hospital in Los Angeles. This location held personal significance for actor Harrison Page, who played Joshua. Before his acting career gained traction, Page had actually worked as a nurse at Queen of Angels. Returning to his old workplace, this time as a co-lead in a major action movie, made the experience surreal for both him and the hospital staff who recognized him. The facility was semi-retired at the time, often used for film productions due to its accessible layout and existing medical equipment. Shooting on location added authenticity to the scenes, saving the production from building costly sets. Queen of Angels was also used in other Hollywood productions like Outbreak and End of Days, cementing its place as a go-to filming site for medical scenes throughout the 1990s and early 2000s. Number 14. A continuity error caused Van Damme's tattoo to vanish mid-scene. In the pool fight scene, a noticeable continuity error occurs. Van Damme's lion tattoo, visible in some shots, completely disappears in others. This wasn't a digital mistake, it was a practical oversight. The tattoo was likely applied with temporary makeup, as Van Damme didn't yet have the real lion tattoo that he would later sport in films like Double Impact. Temporary tattoos require touch-ups between takes, and on high-paced, humid sets like the pool sequence, makeup breakdown is common. Additionally, scenes are filmed out of order and under different lighting, increasing the chance for inconsistencies. Editors may have prioritized performance and fight choreography over strict continuity, letting the tattoo flicker in and out of view. Despite being a small detail, the mistake has been noticed by attentive fans and is now one of the many quirky imperfections that give Lionheart its cult charm. Number 15. The film may have inspired the creation of Street Fighter. Director Sheldon Lettich has suggested that Lionheart directly influenced the concept of Street Fighter, the arcade game phenomenon that debuted in 1987 but became iconic with Street Fighter II in 1991. He pointed out similarities between the film's underground fighting circuits, featuring diverse international opponents with distinct looks and fighting styles, and the game's format. Fighters in Lionheart included a Scotsman in a kilt, a hulking brawler, and a karate expert, mirroring the kind of exaggerated character design that became a Street Fighter trademark. The irony came full circle when Van Damme starred in the 1994 Street Fighter movie playing Colonel Guile. While there's no official confirmation from Capcom, the parallels between the two properties are striking enough that Lettich's theory holds weight. At the very least, Lionheart helped define the underground tournament trope that games and films would continue to borrow for decades. Number 16. A sequel was announced by Van Damme but quietly cancelled. In February 2018, Jean-Claude Van Damme made headlines by announcing that Lionheart 2 was in the works. He shared the news on social media, hinting at development talks and an expected production start later that year. The announcement excited fans of the original film, many of whom considered Lionheart one of Van Damme's most heartfelt and grounded projects. However, after the initial buzz, no follow-up materialized. There were no press releases, casting news, or production updates. The project simply vanished. It's unclear whether the sequel was shelved due to funding issues, studio disinterest, or creative disagreements. This isn't uncommon in Hollywood, where many sequel ideas stall before reaching pre-production. As of 2025, Lionheart 2 remains one of several Van Damme sequel proposals, including follow-ups to Time Cop and Bloodsport, that never made it past early development despite public announcements. Number 17. Van Damme's towel drop scene almost became a franchise staple. The shower scene in Lionheart, where Van Damme briefly reveals his backside, was more than just a cheeky moment. It was a calculated creative choice. Van Damme reportedly asked director Sheldon Lettich if he could drop the towel during filming, believing it would resonate with his female fans. The response was so positive that the moment nearly became a staple of his future films. Van Damme later included similar brief nudity in movies like Double Impact, Nowhere to Run, and Universal Soldier. The early 1990s were a time when action stars often courted dual audiences: the violence for male fans, the charisma and physique for female ones. Van Damme was especially aware of this balance and wasn't shy about using his appeal strategically. While the towel drop didn't become a recurring feature in every movie, it helped cement his image as both a martial artist and a screen heartthrob. Number 18. Van Damme publicly endorsed Lionheart over most of his other films. Unlike many stars who promote all their projects, Jean-Claude Van Damme has openly admitted that only a few of his films truly represent what he wanted to achieve as an actor. Lionheart and Time Cop are the two he has consistently cited as his personal favorites. He has stated in interviews that Lionheart was a turning point, a project where he had substantial creative input, emotional range, and a story he believed in. Many of his other movies, he implied, were more formulaic or driven by studio mandates. This makes Lionheart a rare case where Van Damme wasn't just the lead actor but a key voice in shaping the narrative. His praise for the film isn't just sentimental, it's a recognition of how the movie blended action, emotion, and underdog storytelling. For fans seeking a film closest to Van Damme's vision, Lionheart is often considered essential. Number 19. Female audiences responded strongly to the film's emotional stakes. Director Sheldon Lettich has shared that female audiences were especially drawn to Lionheart because of its emotional core. Unlike many martial arts films of the era, which focused solely on vengeance or glory, Lionheart had a personal, selfless motive. Van Damme's character fights not for pride but to support his deceased brother's family. This narrative, a tough man risking injury to provide for a child, created a vulnerability rarely seen in early 90s action leads. Lettich noted that many women found this storyline compelling, especially the scenes where Lion silently endures pain for his niece's future. It added layers to Van Damme's on-screen image, allowing him to connect with a broader audience. That emotional complexity helped elevate the film beyond a simple fight flick and likely contributed to its lasting popularity. In a genre full of revenge arcs, Lionheart stood out by putting love and sacrifice at the center. Number 20. Lionheart survived disaster to become a cult classic. Lionheart was stitched together from failure, a rejected fighting script from Van Damme, and an abandoned French Foreign Legion draft from Sheldon Lettich. Add in a reluctant studio, an exploding budget, on-set injuries, legal title battles, and multiple last-minute casting changes, and you had a recipe for disaster. Yet despite those challenges, or perhaps because of them, the film succeeded. Released at a time when martial arts movies were flooding video store shelves, Lionheart stood out for its emotional stakes and sincere performances. While critics gave it mixed reviews, audiences responded strongly. The film did well enough to gain international distribution and influence other media, including tournament-style fighting games and indie action flicks. Over time, it became one of the most beloved entries in Van Damme's filmography. What began as a creative patchwork ended up cementing his reputation as both a fighter and a leading man.